Hello everyone, welcome to another lesson of using Python and Blender to beat the AI. As you can see from the animation I just played, it runs 2 and 3 pretty well because that's what we did last time. This lesson, we're going to do animations 4 and 5, which are pretty easy. So for animation 4, just gotta close the valve for what you open in animation 2, and we're gonna make the gauge needle turn back on the pipe. And then for here, we're gonna open the drain valve. So basically, this valve, because we haven't touched it yet, that's the drain valve. We're gonna open that, and water is gonna flow out. So you can get started. So let's go all the way to the bottom so we can continue our code. Alright, you can see here's animation 3 and then animation 4. We're going to create comment animation 4. So let's first create the variables for the frames. Valve for closing start frame, and that's going to be gauge vessel needle turn end. So when the needle on this gauge, it turns 50 frames after that, so plus 50, and then obviously we're going to need to closing end frame. We need end frame. And that's just valve for closing start frame plus valve moving frame. Alright, so now for the needle on the gauge H2 needle turn back start, and gauge H2 needle turn back end. So equals, and this is valve for closing end frame plus 1. So 1 frame after valve for closing end frame, and this is a gauge H2 needle turn back start, and then obviously a valve moving frame, which is 10 frames. Alright, now to add the keyframes for the turn back. So valve for H rotation Euler. Obviously at first it's turned 90 radians to on that z axis, because that's how we turned all the rest. And obviously it's going to stay that way until the start of the keyframe, which turns it back. So keyframe insert rotation Euler frame equals valve for closing start frame. And actually you can just copy this, because we're just making the end frame isn't that hard. We just turn this back into 0 and then turn this to say end frame instead of start frame. Pretty easy stuff. We've all done this before. We're familiar with this now because we did it so many times in the beginning. Now for the gauge GPH2, if you don't remember, is the name we used for the needle on gauge pH2. So Euler 0 0 math dot radians 90 XYZ, which I remembered wrong because I got that mixed up with the other thing. It's not 90, it's 30 because I remember it was at 30 when the pressure was high, right? And then the keyframe, and it's not rotation, it's keyframe. Insert rotation Euler frame. Well, it's already defined up here. Gauge into needle turn back start. And same thing as that. Let me just copy this. Oops. Go over here. Not that radians. 50 radians. Negative 50 radians. Because the pressure's like not fully relieved. It's like not as less as it was last time. Obviously, we have to turn this into turn back end, which is the end of animation 4. Pretty easy, right? So now let's run this code. And for needle. Oh, I spelled gauge wrong over here. Oops. Okay, now that my typo is fixed, and now that we've made this wire, our animation should play. So let's just focus on this part over here. I'm just gonna try to zoom in. Well, it's kind of high, but if you focus on, okay, the gauge turning, the valve just turned, and then we wait. Well, the valve turned, and yeah, you can see. It was going back for a while before the valve turned back, and that's what we want to be like slightly kind of moving. So now the animation 5. So drain valve, we're finding the variables for the frames now. Drain valve up and start frame. It's going to be 5 frames after the needle turn back. And so +5, and then the end frame is going to be the start frame plus valve moving frame. Alright, now valve drain H. No, I don't. Okay, let's do a smaller value. HV. HV is equal to BPY dot data dot objects valve drain handle. So that's valve drain handle, which is the name in Blender we defined for this vent down here. This one. Okay. HV. Alright, so right now it's at 0, 0, 0 for all the rotations for Euler. because we don't want it to turn yet, obviously. And hv.keyframe insert. Keyframe insert data path. So same thing as last time. Rotation. We don't need this data path. Actually, rotation. Euler. And you can just say drain valve open start frame. Alright, so the frame where it starts opening, and now actually I copy both of these lines so it doesn't rotate at all at 0, but then over here, of course, like the rest, 90. It rotates 90 radians on the z-axis, and we change the frame. So kind of exactly like, well, it is exactly like all the other keyframe animations we made, because, well, this is also an animation for the valve, like the other valve animation. Alright, now gauge vessel turning back. Gauge vessel needle turning back. And we don't need thing. GVT, so gauge on vessel turn, not on vessel vent. Yeah, gauge on vessel vent thing. I think that's what it stands for. Gauge on vessel needle turn. Okay, that's what it means. Gauge rotation Euler equals Euler 0 math.radians 30 0 xyz. The GVT, the keyframe insert rotation Euler frame equals drain valve open start frame. Alright, now just copy paste it, turn this into -50 like the one on pipe H2. So this gauge is the same as pipe H2, but it's a few frames after, and it's the same frames as drain valve open, as when the drain valve opens. So yeah. Alright, now no, we can animate the water coming out. Drain mod, using drain mod, of course, to add a modifier to the HV, so this thing over here, which was also what we just turned this into the source of the flow, like how I turned this into the source of the flow, the valve vent. It's basically the same idea with that. Fluid drain, and not dry and drain. Type is fluid. drain mod dot flow settings. And we don't do that yet. I was getting ahead of myself. Dot fluid type equals flow. So same thing as the one on the valve vent. It's flow, and then we can finally use flow settings. Dot flow type. How does that flow? Like liquid. Then drain mod dot not flow settings. And then how does it behave in flow? Like what we did with the vent. Inflow. Alright. Now, let's start the drain. So start the draining. Dot use inflow. So use inflow. So this right now that inflow is turned off, so it won't drain. And this dot keyframe insert data path that use inflow. Drain valve open start frame -10. 10 frames before drain valve open start frame, which is also that drain valve starts opening. And that's the equal sign, not a minus sign. The inflow is off, right? Then we can copy this and change this to true. And then delete this. So when like before 10 frames before and it's off. However, it turns true right when it starts opening. So this is just telling you, hey, stop flowing before we open the drain, or like the keyframe of the drain. And we actually have one more flow setting, velocity factor. So we're just gonna put it as 0.5, which is slower, but it makes it easier to see. And here we never close this. And then here it's not a dot, it's an equal. Same thing over here. Right? And then here frame, do we need a frame equal? Oh, we do need a frame equals. Okay. Okay then. So that means, yep, over here there's a problem. So there are no, ignore what I said about not hitting your frame equals. You do need that. Same thing over here. And oops, this one's an equal, not a dot. Sorry about other things. Fluid modifier dot flow fluid type equals flow fluid drain type fluid. Oh wait, how do you? Sorry about that. Okay, so domain dot modify flow type fluid flow mod fluid modifier flow mod dot fluid type dot fluid type equals flow. Oh, it's just an error. Okay. Typo. Oopsies. Okay, now it's running. And if we go over here, wire like normal. Okay. Let's just skip. Okay, it's turned back. And we don't have enough frames to show the water coming out. So we can fix that problem. Like, we can fix that problem by extending. You can see the like part over here. That's like the default length of an animation. But we don't have that much time, and you can see the fluid is starting to come out of the drain, but it's not quite. So we can actually fix this by set animation timeline. By doing this code, we put our context.scene frame start is 1 because it starts at frame 1, but we can also do frame end 350. And actually, we have to do something first. Over here to the domain, because we have to tell the domain that we extended it, but we just have to add an extra line, which is dom setting dot cat frame and equals 350, and we already wrote that. Apparently we already wrote that. I don't remember writing that, but it's over here. So yeah, and you can see this is the end frame at around 350. Or not 350, like after 250, because that's when it comes out. That's when the water starts flowing out of the drain below, and you can see that it's flowing correctly. So that's it for today. Next lesson we're gonna do some stuff with the camera, try to get good shots. So bye.